Hi, I'm David Goforth with Simply Local. Today I'm up here at the Farmers Market at North Carolina Research Campus, and they've got several things going on here today, as well as a few things from neighboring counties. Pam sent me out here to do something on slow cooking. I thought I'd buy some beef here, a little something to do some slow cooking with. Now, my understanding on slow cooking is that we're wanting some of the denser vegetables like carrots or onions. You can put most anything in there. You could put broccoli in there, but let's stick with the denser things here. Let me get one of these carrots. We'll get a bigger one here where Pam don't have to peel that much. And also something like onions work very well, and potatoes would be another thing we could put in here. So let's grab our stuff now and let's head back to the kitchen. Pam, cow meat.
Oh, great. You've been to the farmer's market, haven't you?
We got some cow meat from Eddie Yao down there, Yao's Farms.
Cow meat.
Cow, beef, we call it.
Okay,
right.
Yao beef.
Some beautiful potatoes here, and some onions, and a carrot, and a surprise here, a locally grown winter squash. I bet you wasn't expecting that, were you?
I wasn't expecting a locally grown squash, but David, you're always lots of fun and full of surprises. Well, with these dense vegetables and delicious beef, let's try the technique of using a slow cooker. You know, the nice thing about slow cookers is that you're able to load it up, set it on low, leave for 8 hours, and come back, and dinner is ready. This is a great, simple appliance for so many people to use. Think about a slow cooker. If you're buying one, there's a couple things that you want to check on. You always want to buy a slow cooker that has a control that you can set from off to warm, low to hot. And generally, you're going to cook with slow cookers on low heat. You want to think slow and low when you use a slow cooker. Another thing you want to look at if you're purchasing a slow cooker, this is before you even get started, is of course you want to buy a cooker that has a removable ceramic type crock pot. It makes cleanup a whole lot easier. It makes serving a whole lot easier, and it's just a great way to cook because the heat is coming all the way around the slow cooker. We've
done some years ago when me and my wife both worked. We'd go, and like you said, it could, if it was 6 hours, if it was 8 hours, if it was 10 hours, it really didn't matter. The food would just continue to simmer. And so it didn't really matter when you got home, it was there.
The food, right, it didn't matter. And of course, the thing we want to remember is it's a good idea to cook on low. Now, let's get started, David. And you know, I'm a big thing about easy and quick and convenient. To make cleanup easier, you can spray with some food spray the interior of your slow cooker or crock pot. There's also something else that a lot of people haven't seen on the market. And did you know you can buy slow cooker liners? And it makes cleanup so easy and so quick. You just take a slow cooker plastic liner and place it on the inside of your slow cooker. And you'll notice that it just fits over all the cooker, and it makes cleanup so easy. When you're cooking with a slow cooker, you want to put what's called your denser vegetables in first. And denser vegetables would be things like potatoes. And I prepared these about 2 hours ago, and they've been soaking in a mixture of about a half a teaspoon or more of cream of tartar and water. The reason I wanted to do that, it keeps the potatoes so white. These were cut several hours ago, and it will help the potatoes keep their creamy white color even though they will be slow cooking in the slow cooker for 8 hours. So we're just going to start by putting in our dense vegetables. Isn't this easy? The most time-consuming thing is getting your vegetables ready. And we're going to line the bottom of the slow cooker. I think I can put in a few more. But David, it's so important when you're using a slow cooker that you do not totally fill the cooker up. We've got to have room for the steam to escape.
So let me ask you on the,
okay.
Would it be fine to just leave the skin on these things?
I have done potatoes with the skin on, and they turned out just fine. It would increase the cooking time a little bit. But on the other hand, it would give a little bit more fiber in your diet. So you can really do either that you prefer. We have a mixture today of the smaller red potatoes and traditional baking potatoes. All right, the next thing we're gonna add are those carrots. And David, that is a huge carrot that you have found for me. And thank heavens I did a little preparation before. But the main thing when you're using vegetables in a slow cooker is you want to try to have the pieces uniform. And some of my pieces are not looking as uniform as others, but you want to try to have the pieces kind of uniform. The next thing I'm going to add is some good old onions. And these onions have been just chopped real finely in I chopped these in a little mini food processor, but you can do it by hand. But I do like the onions nice and finely chopped. And these are good local Cabarrus County onions. Now, can you smell the onions? Man, I'm starting to smell it. Hey David, are we ready now for your surprise?
Well, the winter squash is what I thought I would do, and I've chopped it about the same size, and I'm going to leave the skin on it, which is a little bit unusual. You know, growing up, we never left the skin on winter squash. We would always either bake it like this, you know, with a little bit of brown sugar and butter, and we would eat it out of the skin and toss away the skin. But if you're doing it in a slow cooker like this, the skin will actually soften down. It'll still feel firm to your mouth when you put it in there, but you put it about the same size bites, and it will actually, you'll eat it skin and all when you serve it.
Well, David, you always surprise me, and that's a great looking squash. Maybe we should look at the other side of it for just a second, too. It is so pretty and colorful. At least it's not deer meat, David. I'm really kind of surprised.
Well, you could do that now, but we're not going to do it.
We're not going to do it. You're going to refrain. Thank you, David. Okay, we've got the surprise end of the squash, and we always have some unexpected things. Now, the real star of the slow cooker is our locally produced beef. And this came from Yale's in Stanfield. And the pieces that you were able to buy the particular day were really cut a little larger than we might have liked. I believe it was almost a kebab size. So I did use my knife and make the cubes a little bit smaller, and I did go ahead and remove the fat too. You've got a little bit of fat. Boy, that slow cooker is almost getting too filled. So I'm glad we didn't add too many more vegetables. All right, now the slow cooker has been loaded. We're just about ready to close it down. Hadn't this been easy?
Let me ask you a question, Pam. Sometimes when I'm cooking a regular stew, I will actually brown the beef a little bit. Is that something that you could do here or you should not do here, or what's your thoughts on that?
Well, that's a really good question. Today we are doing the easiest lazy beef stew we can. And we are putting the beef in the slow cooker raw. You are exactly right. In many of your recipes, you're going to be told, or it's going to be suggested, that you brown the meat before you put it in the slow cooker. Some of the soups I do, you brown the lean ground beef. If you were using ground turkey, you will definitely brown the ground turkey before you put it in. But I've got the very simplest recipe that I could for our folks today. Good question, David.
Let me ask you another question, Ben. I don't know. Is there any food safety concerns that we're really looking at with this technique?
Well, of course, there are always food safety concerns. And, you know, we've started by washing our hands, and we've kept everything clean. The main thing, and we'll talk about this a little bit more, is when you turn, and the cooker's not on yet, we haven't turned it on yet to low, but when you put your lid on, We want to leave the lid on. When we're finished, we want to leave it on for the 8 hours. It is so tempting to take the lid off, peek at it, stir it, and things like that. But every time we lift this lid off, we're taking or we're adding at least 20 and perhaps up to 60 more minutes of cooking time. So that's one important safety feature. If this is left on low, you can rest assured if your slow cooker is working that it is going to be getting up to the internal temperature of 140 degrees, which is the level that we want to get the food up to keep it safe. But another thing you've added, David, or a question that's kind of come to mind, we're putting in beef that is thawed. Always want to use thawed meat. You don't want to try to thaw it in your slow cooker. That would take too long, and then also it would really give you a really good chance for bacteria to grow because we're getting the temperature up slowly. So your meat should always be thawed. Glad you asked that question. What else did you want to know about slow cooker safety?
Well, safety is that's my concerns if there was safety things I had to worry about on that.
Yeah, I'm so glad you asked the question about browning the meat in advance. Now, let's continue onward with the really easy beef stew, or some people call this a lazy day beef stew. And we're just going to add now we're pouring a third a cup of low sodium soy sauce. This is going to be a teaspoon of paprika. And again, if you don't like paprika, don't put it in. The next thing we're going to add is a half a teaspoon of pepper. Again, you've got some choices of things you can add, but this is making it so easy. This makes it possible to go off for the day. The next thing we're going to add is a half a teaspoon of salt. I think you need a little bit of salt in the slow cooker just to bring out a little bit of flavor. The next thing we're going to add is 3 tablespoons of just all-purpose flour. This is what makes this recipe kind of unique. Have any idea what the flour does? I know you know.
I'm guessing it's a thickening.
It's a thickening. Adding the flour is going to thicken this sauce. The liquid will become thicker. Now, in some situations, your guidelines will tell you to add this maybe an hour before you're serving it and turn the temperature up to high. But you know, David, we're at work and we're not going to have a lot of time to do that. So we will just go ahead and add the flour now. Not going to have to worry about anything.
Are you worried about it clumping whatsoever?
No,
It will not clump in this system?
It will not clump at all. Will not clump. In fact, I want to be sure to tell you something in a few minutes. The next thing, and if maybe we can, the next thing we're going to do is add 1 cup of beef broth, and you again buy this at the grocery store, and 8 ounces of tomato sauce. Now you might even have your own tomato sauce at home, but I'm using some just commercial tomato sauce. So that was 8 ounces of beef broth and 8 ounces, an 8-ounce cup of tomato sauce. We're going to just pour it over the crock pot, and I'm kind of getting the flour wet, but it's really sinking down. This is a real important thing. You know, a lot of times you can use burgundy if you like that taste. If you're doing chicken, a lot of times you'll be adding white wine, which I like, Chardonnay wine, or you can be using broth, or of course you could always just use plain water. Now, we've got the crock pot loaded. I want to tell you another secret that you can do. I did this last night for another crock pot or slow cooker recipe. Say you want to put this in your kitchen and get it going at 8 o'clock in the morning. Well, who wants to get up at 5 and start preparing and trimming the meat and slicing the carrots and peeling the potatoes and all that? David, you can take this out and cover it with aluminum foil and keep it in your refrigerator overnight. So you can load your slow cooker overnight and then pop it out the next morning. I've done that several times and it works just great. It will, of course, increase slightly the amount of time, let me pull that out, the amount of time that you will cook this. But it's a great time saver and it's a great way to get out of the house a little quicker in the morning, or even I've done this before going to church, and it really does save a lot of time. So now we're ready to put the lid on, And we will want to turn, I have to turn this around a little bit. We want to turn this to low. And David, we're ready to go to work. We're ready to go out and work in your garden. And we'll come home 8 hours later and have a delicious, tender, slow cooker, lazy day beef stew or easy beef stew. Well, David, 8 hours have passed. We've returned home. Let's see what our stew looks like. We're ready to lift the lid, and we're just gonna very carefully lift it away from us. Look at the steam coming out. The slow cooker has certainly done its job, hasn't it? Now, you'll notice also that it's kind of shrunk down a little bit. It was a lot fuller than this, but it has definitely shrunk down, and that's typical. But I think we're ready now to just reach down in and grab some carrots, some onions, local beef. Those carrots look beautiful, don't they? Potatoes. What's your favorite part?
I'm not sure I got a favorite part. I think it's whatever I'm eating next.
Oh, you like whatever you're eating next, huh? Okay, well, let me get another carrot. Whenever you do soup or stew like this, David, you always want to add a little bit of garnish to it. But today, I'm just going to garnish it with some chopped tomatoes, trying to add some color here. Some chopped tomatoes. And, you know me, I always have to have a little bit of parsley, so we'll add just a little bit of parsley to that. And now, I think we're ready to enjoy our easy or lazy day beef stew.
Pam, do you have any references or written things?
Well, David, yes, of course, this recipe and directions for slow cooking is always listed in our Cook Smart, Eat Smart reference, which we use. And then our Extension and Community Association members are even enjoying a monthly program on slow cooking entitled Slow Cooking, Homemade Soups, Stews, and More. And we'd be glad to share this publication with anyone that would like a copy if they stop by the Extension office.
Well, Pam, with this much, looks like we're gonna have a few leftovers.
Well, David, you know, I'm glad you mentioned leftovers. Leftovers aren't really leftovers, they're planned overs. But you're so right, we do have some planned overs. And you know, it's really important to store these planned overs correctly. After we finished enjoying the beef stew, we will, of course, lift the liner out, and we're going to take the beef stew out of the ceramic dish, put it in another type of glass dish perhaps, or casserole dish, and let it cool very quickly, and then store it in the refrigerator. We're not going to store the ceramic liner and the crock pot or the slow cooker itself. That would keep the food temperature too high, and it would be too long it would take too long to cool, and it would become dangerous in that danger zone. So I'm glad you asked me about that. Now, I think we're finally ready to enjoy some local beef stew. Isn't it fun to eat smart and
eat local?
Eat local.